Hey everybody, Abby Stafford here from Abacus Solutions Financial Coaching, and today I just wanted to take the time to share with you one of the budgeting apps that I recommend my personal clients to use. Some people are more comfortable with an app style of budgeting because of the ease of having it at their fingertips on their phone at all times. Other people are more comfortable, totally nerding out with an Excel style spreadsheet. And in a future video, I will go through the spreadsheet that I have created and I use with my clients. But for this video purposes, I'm going to show you how to get signed up for EveryDollar and how to get into the website on the desktop version. And I'll explain the differences between the desktop and the app versions. So I'm going to go to the website right now, EveryDollar.com, and you see that up on the on my screen here. Now I already have a sign-in, so I'm eventually just going to click the sign-in button. But if you do not have an account yet, it is absolutely free. So you just click that Get Started. You add a few things. A name and an email address and create a password and all that, and you're on your way to getting your free account set up. So I'm going to go back to the previous page and get signed in here, and it's going to bring up my personal account that I use for my personal budgeting, because I do use this personally. But I'm going to go ahead and put in my my demo login here. And get that signed in. So once you get your email and your password entered in, it's going to pull up the main budget screen. Okay. So I had actually signed up for their, I think it's 14 or 15 day trial to give the premium version, which is about $100 a year, a try on this, and to show some of the features that you do get with the premium version that's not included with the free. There's not that many, and it's not that big of a deal. You can definitely get by on the free version. It does just about everything you want it to. You just get a little bit more detail with the premium version. So here we are. It's May 2019, so that's the month that it pulled up. If I exit out of this little thing here, if you click on the drop down here, this is how you can change from month to month. As we move closer to June, eventually we're going to want to start planning for June, and what they'll do is they'll just roll over May's budget to get started, and you can make any tweaks that you need to. But for now, we're going to focus on May. And the very top section is your income section. So you can break this out a couple different ways, as many, however you like. If you want to break it out by paycheck by paycheck, like if you get paid weekly, for instance, this month, May, if you get paid on Fridays, you have 5 paychecks this month. If you wanted to create 5 separate paychecks in here, you definitely can. If you want to lump all of your, paychecks from your full-time job into one line, like I have here, you can definitely do that as well. If you have a side business, or you work a side job, or you earn money some other way other than your main full-time job, you can definitely add it in here. Let's say you coach some sort of team on the side and you want to put in coaching income, and let's say you get paid like $300 a month for that, whatever. You can go ahead and add that in. So income section, fairly straightforward. It just depends on how detailed you want it to be. I will also say, if you are a married couple and you are preparing a joint budget, which I recommend that you do, you can also split out, his and hers paychecks on separate lines as well. So continuing to go through the budget, the expenses now. The first one they put in there is giving. If you do, if giving to a church or a charity is part of your monthly budget, by all means, go ahead and put it in there. The savings category is next. If you are still trying to build up your either mini emergency fund, $1,000, or your fully funded 3 to 6 months emergency fund after you complete baby step 2, paying off all your debt except for your house, there would be an amount planned in the plan column here. And just to back up a few steps, obviously there's 2 different columns here that we can see here in the app or on the website. There is the planned or budgeted column. And then the second column is either, you can toggle between 2 different views. You can toggle between remaining, so how much of the budget you have left for the rest of the month, or you can do how much you've actually spent for the month. I typically leave it on remaining, but it is up to you. All right, so back to the expenses or the spending sections. Next, we've got housing. This is anything related to housing, your mortgage or rent, utility bills, water, cable, electric, if you have gas, if you have a separate trash bill, any repairs and maintenance that you may be either saving up for or know that you're going to have during the month would all go in here. And you can, like it says here, there's a button to click here to add an item. If you wanted to add, let's say you had lawn service, and this is a monthly payment, you can add that in there. Let's say you pay your lawn service company $75 a month to cut your grass and do your landscaping. So that can go in there in the plan section, and that's really, for every single category, if you need to add a line, that's how easy it is. You just click add item, you pop it in there, and you put the amount in. I will also say, like, if you can put homeowners, if you have a homeowners association and you have monthly or quarterly maintenance fees, you can put it on the repairs maintenance line, or you can add a line and give it its own line item so you don't confuse it with, household repairs or whatever. You can put in HOA fees, whatever works for you. Okay, so moving on, there's a transportation category. This would be, gas, maintenance if you are due for an oil change in the month, if you put a little bit of money aside every month to pay for bigger purchases like tires or repairs, you could put that in there. If you live in an area where there are toll roads and it is a normal part of your commute, you may want to add a line item for tolls in there. I know I do personally, just because here in South Florida, there's the Turnpike, there's the Sawgrass, and there's the 95 Express lane, so they're tolling us at every chance they get. Okay, so food. This is going to be a little bit of a trial and error if you're new to budgeting. You may want to look back either on your bank activity or just keep track for a period of time to see how much money you actually spend on groceries in a given time period, whether you look for an entire month or you look at a specific week and then extrapolate it out. I will say that groceries and restaurant spending, they are 2 of the most variable expenses in a normal budget. They are both the easiest and the hardest places to save money. Just because we have to eat, and convenience usually wins out over savings. And so it's really easy, if you haven't prepared ahead of time, to blow the budget on food. If you're in a really tight spot and you are really trying to dig yourself out of a hole, I would recommend that you try not to eat out at restaurants at all, even fast food restaurants. This is easier said than done. But the discipline that you can form in this area will allow you to get out of debt that much faster. Like I said, this is the area of the budget where you can control it the most if you really try. There's a lot of different grocery hacks and recommendations that I give to my clients, and you can live pretty frugally on a grocery budget if you have to. And I recommend and urge my clients to try to cut their expenses in this area as much as possible. So moving on through, there's the personal section. You can put your cell phone bill in here if it's your only phone. You can always throw cell phone up into the housing section. I think that's where I have mine personally. It's a personal preference. It can go either place. Clothing, again, if you're really working to pay off debt and you are trying to be super, intense and disciplined about it, you may not want to budget on a regular, monthly basis for clothing. Unless you have children that are constantly outgrowing their clothing, then, you kind of have to put something aside for them. But as an adult, you really shouldn't have to be buying clothing every month. So to the extent you can, try to save in that area. There is a fund money section here. For this budget example purposes, I put in a pretty large amount. Again, this is discretionary spending. So if you are really trying to be focused and motivated on paying down debt, you probably want to keep that to a smaller amount. And then, there's normal monthly expenses for stuff like toiletries. If you have subscriptions, be sure to include them in your budget. This could be anything like Netflix or Hulu, Spotify. If you pay make a monthly payment on your Amazon Prime account, any kind of subscription that you have, definitely account for it in the budget. Okay, moving on to lifestyle. If you have a pet, make sure you account for their food that they eat in a month. If you have to do any kind of grooming, I typically split out, when I take my dog to the vet, I split another line out for that just because it's usually a once or twice a year expense and it's larger than normal. Sometimes I'll set up a savings fund for that just to put a little bit of money aside every month to be able to make that a little easier to stomach when the time comes around. Childcare, if you have kids in aftercare, summer camps coming up, anything like that, you want to definitely put it in there. If you have babysitters on a regular basis, definitely account for it in your budget. Entertainment and miscellaneous, again, if you go to the movies, if you rent movies, if you, family outings, whatever, anything that could fall into the entertainment category, you definitely want to account for it here. Again, and miscellaneous, I do recommend everybody have at least a little bit in a miscellaneous budget line item because something is almost always going to come up during the month. There's always something that slips your mind, maybe only rolls around once a year, that, you definitely want to have a little bit of a cushion in your budget just to account for those types of things. And, as budgeting becomes a more habitual thing for you, you will be able to really hone in on this category and get it down to really only what you need, because you'll be able to account for things a lot better on a month-by-month basis. Again, the whole goal, if you're in debt, if you're trying to pay down debt as fast as possible, you want these kinds of categories to be as small as possible and as realistically possible, because the more you can cut down on these categories, the more you have to throw at the debt and get it paid off that much faster. So, okay, health. If you have a gym membership, it should definitely go in the budget. If you have monthly prescriptions or vitamins, supplements that you have, definitely include those. If you know that you're going to be seeing a doctor during the month, if there is a copay involved or something, definitely include that in the budget. Now, moving on to insurance. Now, if your health insurance is through your employer and it gets deducted from your paycheck, the amount that you are showing up here in the income section it should be your net take-home pay. So if it's already out of here, the health insurance, then you don't need to include it down in the insurance section. This is only if you pay for it yourself, not through an employer, like Obamacare or, something like that, Medicare, whatever. Same with life insurance. If it's company paid or you pay for it through your paycheck, definitely don't include it here. But if you have a separate standalone policy or policies on you and your spouse, and you pay for it, either monthly or quarterly or whatever, definitely include it in your budget because you are making that payment outside of your paycheck. Auto insurance, obviously, usually that's paid for separately. If you have homeowners insurance, if you pay monthly for that, definitely include it in the monthly budget. If you pay quarterly or annually, you probably want to set up a sinking fund for that, to put a little bit of money aside every month, so that when that once a year payment or once a quarter payment comes around, you have the money set aside to pay for that, and it's not a huge shock to the system. So, okay, and the final section down here is the debt section. And I'm probably going to do an entire video just on the debt snowball and how to put it in here in the EveryDollar app. But for this video's purposes, basically you can add as many lines as you want. And it's really nice because you can put a lot of detail into each line. For each of these, name it something that makes sense to you and that you can keep them straight, especially if you've got multiple cards from the same company. Let's say you have like 2 different Chase cards or 2 different Capital One cards, or you've got 4 or 5 separate student loans that you're paying, like one payment on, but it's actually separate loans. You want to split those out into the debt snowball. So, be detailed in this area and split the debts out as much as possible. And then you're going to put just the minimum payment at first into the planned column for each of these. So I'm going to click on this first one here and just kind of show you the detail. Because this is a debt, you can put in the starting balance over here on the right side. And the really cool thing is you can even put in the due date for each one of these, so that you've got it in here. And I believe in the app you can actually set up reminders. So you can obviously you can do this in the calendar on your phone as well, but it's kind of nice that it's tied in with the EveryDollar app, and you can set up reminders to pay when those payments are due. So you can put in the starting balance, you can put in the minimum payment, and if you're making any sort of extra payment, like on the smallest one, you can also put that in here. And it's going to, as you roll forward your budget from month to month, it will actually update the balances for you. And you can still always edit the starting balance. So let's say, it's a little bit off from month to month just because of interest accrual or, whatever. You can always go in there and update it for whatever month that you're in. But it's kind of nice that it just rolls over automatically, so you kind of just have to put it in once and then tweak it going forward. So that's pretty much how each one of the debt items works. And you can, within this section, when you have so this is one of the differences with premium. I know that they will sort this debt section for you, smallest to largest, with the premium version, so that visually you're looking at it in the right order. And as the month goes on, as you make those payments, it shows how much you've paid off overall. So it's kind of a nice feature of the premium version. So that's pretty much it. You can customize this as much as you want. I mean, if you need to add another group, I'm trying to think say you have a small side business and you need to account, it's not a separate entity. You're paying for stuff out of pocket. It's all, whatever money you make from it, you claim it on your 1040, whatever. If you want to add like a group for business expenses, this definitely, just off the top of my head, one example of why you would need to add a separate group. Or I'm sure there's others, but I can't think of any other examples right now. But it gives you the ability to do that if you need to. So getting back to the very top up here under the month, the program shows you how much of your income you have left to budget, because as you know, we're doing a zero-based budget. So every dollar coming in needs to be assigned to a task going out, whether it's paying, a monthly expense, whether it's going into savings, or whether it's paying down debt. So in our example, we've got $225 left to budget. We're paying minimums on everything. And like I set up here in the emergency fund, so this is another example of a fund, and it's kind of similar to the debt, but obviously way better, where you can put in fund details. So in my hypothetical scenario here, I started out the month with no emergency fund balance, a zero balance. So I had planned to put $100 in here because at the time, that's all I had left in the budget. I think I put up here, like I earned a small stipend coaching this month, which is where, the surplus came from. So in this hypothetical situation, I would up this to $325 to, make sure my budget's in balance, it goes to zero, and also to build up the emergency fund that much faster so that then going forward, once I get to 1,000, I can jump on to baby step 2, which is the debt snowball and paying off my debts as fast as I can. So if we were to change the scenario in this, let's say we had the emergency fund balance, the $1,000, and we change that. So we've got the $1,000, which is baby step 1. We would want to assign that $325 remaining to budget to another category, which would be the debt category. So if I go back down here to the debt category, what I'm going to do is this top credit card has the smallest balance. See, it's smallest to largest. So I'm going to click on here, like I said, and I'm going to put in the $325 as an extra payment, which, I guess I have to do it up here. So what is that? $362. Okay, and see how it automatically updated it down here in the details, and it saves, and that's all there is to it. So so that updates my debt snowball. It updates my overall budget, and your budget is set. It's at zero. It's an EveryDollar budget, and now what you have to do is you have to live the budget out. One thing I'll show you, if you click on the accounts up here, this is where if you have the premium, you can add your bank accounts, and it's secure. The majority of the reason they actually charge a fee for this is because the banks charge EveryDollar a fee to be able to link to it. So, they're not making money off of the premium versions. It's really just to pay for the bank fees. But it's a pretty simple process to connect your bank accounts. And the really nice feature of that is when you connect your accounts, it actually pulls your transactions in here, up here in the orange plus, and then it pops up like with a number, however many transactions it pulls in. It shows up right here. And then when you click on it, it's kind of like this, but there would be transactions here, and all you have to do is you just click on a certain transaction. Let's say, it's Friday and your paycheck hit and it pops up as a transaction. Well, all you got to do is you click over here in this area here, the transactions area, and you click on it and you just drag it over, and when you hover over a line item, it'll turn it like blue or highlight it, and then you just drag it in there and it automatically goes into there, and that it categorizes it for you, and then it will update this received column for whatever the amount of that paycheck was. Same thing with any of your expenses. Let's say that the transaction showed up, your water bill got paid. You would click and drag it, and it would go into the water line item, and then there would be like a zero remaining balance, assuming you paid the full bill. And then you would be done with that for the month. Now, if you decide to stick with the free version for a while, you just have to manually add all of your transactions. So continuing with the water bill scenario, let's say we paid that, and I'll just use mine. Mine as an example. I pay Broward County, and then you go down here and you can scroll down until you get the water bill. And then you just click track expense. And then that automatically updates. See, now I've got zero remaining on the water line item. And if I toggle over to the spent, it shows all $49 spent. And I'll go to, let me do one more transaction. I think this is helpful because it shows you how to split transactions. So let's say I went to Walmart. Walmart and Target are good examples of this. Let's say I went to Walmart and I spent $95. Okay, and I go down here and I say Walmart, and of that $95, let's say that groceries was part of it, but then also, I bought some toiletries, so like hair and cosmetics was part of it. So obviously you're going to have to look at your bill and figure out the breakout or the split. But let's say that, $70 of it was groceries and then $25 was hair and cosmetics or toiletries. So I've fully, it shows here at the bottom that I've fully allocated the split to the total, and then I can just track expense and it'll send those to the appropriate categories. If you do not allocate the entire amount, it won't let you save. So, and you can play around with the numbers and it'll do the math for you. So, and if it's more, if it's more than 2 categories, you can split it as many times as you need to. If you click on the more options, if you're paying something by check, if you want to add notes to jog your memory, like maybe, it's a random, not a very good description, and it's like, okay, well, I went to Publix, but I paid for this. Oh, I bought a book of stamps. That's why it was so high this time. If you want, you can add notes, whatever you want to do. So we'll hide that. We'll go ahead and track the expense, and I'll show you. So now, I spent $70 on groceries at Walmart. I've got $230 remaining. Again, if I toggle, it'll show the amount I spent. And then if I scroll down to hair and cosmetics, I've fully spent my budgeted $25 for the month. So theoretically, I should be done. And like I said, if you're just getting started, it may take a few months. It generally takes at least 90 days to really, form a new habit and get comfortable with it. So, don't beat yourself up too much in the first month. If you go over budget or if your estimates at the beginning of the month turn out to be, grossly wrong. Nobody's perfect on their budget ever. I've been budgeting for like over 10 years now, and I'm still not perfect. I still make mistakes and have to tweak categories during the month. So don't beat yourself up over it. It will get easier over time. And if you put the time in on the front end and tracking it as you go, every couple days at least, I would recommend, going in, making sure you've tracked everything, especially if you're doing this manually. If it's not pulling the transactions in for you from your bank account, I would definitely try to keep up with it on an almost daily basis, because unless you're writing stuff down, it's really easy to forget. I guess you could always pull up your bank activity and toggle back and forth between the budget and your bank account to track everything. But again, if you're using cash for things, then it's easy to spend cash and forget about it. So definitely make it a consistent part of your day, or every couple days. It will pay off because you will be paying better attention to your money. And you will notice a difference. You will find money in the month. I've had a lot of clients that start with me that say, "Oh, I don't have enough money to to pay this stuff off. I just don't make enough money. I'm never going to get ahead." But when they start paying attention to their money and really tracking every dollar that comes in and every dollar that goes out, they do realize that there is money there, and it's just been leaking out because they haven't been paying attention to it. So that's kind of my high-level review of EveryDollar. The app is very similar. It looks almost identical to this. I will probably include some screenshots from the app in the comments below this video, just to give you guys an idea. But like I said, it's almost identical. There's a few things that aren't included. I'm trying to think of them off the top of my head. Most of the stuff you can do in here, it's a little user-friendly. I like to set my budget up at the beginning of every month in the PC or desktop version, just because you can just view everything a little bit easier. the app does have this nice feature over here on the side, which I have not talked about too much yet, but it's kind of nice to see in kind of like graph version, I guess you could say, a breakdown of all of your categories and the percentage of your budget that's going to every category. There are recommended budget percentages for each category, and it's good to know whether or not you're staying within those categories. And it kind of gives you guidance on where you need to focus on getting your expenses down. So, I mean, I've had clients before where their debt payments are over 50% of their monthly budget. And that's, it's obviously a very scary place to be in, which is why it's so important to really focus on this and get out of that situation as fast as possible. So anyways, that's my EveryDollar tutorial. Like I said, I will include some screenshots of the app in the comments below. But do you have any questions about using EveryDollar or using a budget app in general? If you do, leave some comments below. I will try to answer everyone that I receive. And like I said, in a future video, I will definitely do a tutorial on using an Excel-based budget spreadsheet just so that you can see how that goes. So, all right, thanks guys, and I'll see you next time.